Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for attending the inaugural Zoom call investor update. It's a shame that we're not doing a usual roadshow in a public place so that everyone could have the opportunity to chat afterwards and ask questions in person. But obviously, you'll understand with COVID, we're in a bit of a unique situation at the moment. So we announced earlier on this year that we'd do 4 roadshows during 2020 and 2021. The idea is really just to give everybody an update on the strategic vision that we've got for the company and where we're looking to go over the next 12 months and beyond. So without further ado, I'll share some slides and we'll start working through the pack. I've got Arun with me this evening, and Sina and Madison are in the background, who will be forwarding questions as they come through towards the end of the presentation on live chat. Sina thought that an hour would be ample to get through the slide pack. I think when I finished writing the slide pack, I think it was maybe a little bit optimistic, but we will try and get through it as quickly as we possibly can. So if you bear with me a second.
You have to share screen, John.
We'll get on to the slide pack. So everybody should be able to see the screen up with that's in front of you now. The first slide that we've got up here just gives you a bit of an indication of the sheer scale and the sheer size of a Harland and Wolff facility in Belfast. Straight in front of you there, you can see the 336 metre Belfast dock. Then up in the background, underneath Samson and Goliath, you can see the 556 metre building dock. In the quayside here is where the last Viking Cruises vessel that left today, this afternoon at 2 p.m. has just departed from. And we're hoping to have that filled again very soon with some more vessels. So, as I said, the presentation team that you've got here this evening is myself, John Wood, the Chief Executive Officer, for anybody that's not met me before, and we've got Arun Raman, our CFO. So when we look at the group structure of InfraStrata, it's changed slightly since the last presentation evening that we had, where we've now got Harland and Wolff Group, which now sits underneath the Harland and Wolff Belfast and Harland and Wolff Appledore. To the left-hand side of that, we've still got our Island McGee Energy, our flagship gas storage project, and then off to the side of that, we've got Island McGee Energy Hub. Now, Island McGee Energy Hub is an incubator where we've got several projects that I'll talk about a little bit more shortly. So if we go back to the 5th of December 2018, these slides will be fairly familiar for regular followers of the company. And I think it's encouraging to see that the number of people that's online tonight, usually these evenings are for the retail investment community, but I'm pleased to say this evening we've got institutions, we've got clients, we've got people from Harland and Wolff and Belfast, we've got clients on board, and it's amazing to see such a large interest from the community in Island McGee showing such support for the project. So if you look back to the 5th of December when we had our first slide when we were looking at Island McGee Energy and what was in Island McGee Energy Hub, so we were considering the project in 2 phases, 2 caverns to begin with, then 3 to 7 caverns. And underneath the Island McGee Energy Hub, our incubator, we had an additional 15 caverns that we were considering the potential for, twinning the SNP pipeline, the FSRU project at that stage, which was only identification that we liked the look of that and liked the sound of it, LNG combined heat and power, and hydrogen production and storage. So going back such a long time ago, it feels like 2 years, we'd already identified hydrogen as something that was of significant interest to us. So I actually took this slide as a starting point for the pack to update on where we are today. We've combined the project for Island McGee into one sole project for 1 to 7 caverns. We're all the way through FEED, and we're hoping to undertake FID in H1 of 2021. And I'll come back and speak quite a bit more between myself and Arun on Island McGee later on. On the additional caverns, we've gone through concept study, feasibility studies, the same with twinning the SNP in the FSRU project. We decided not to take the LNG combined heat and power any further at this stage, but we've also gone through with the hydrogen storage. In production, we've looked at but not done a whole lot more with it, but we've got a concept development study underway for hydrogen at this moment in time. In addition, we've got the 2 acquisitions in Harland and Wolff Belfast and Harland and Wolff Appledore. So if we look through and we think about our developing strategy, and I think there's so many projects and so many exciting things out there at the moment, we really went back to the drawing board and evaluated where we were against the different type of projects that we were looking at, really to try and narrow down the focus of the business, what we were looking at and what we weren't looking at. And I think looking at key government policies is an instrumental part in that, to see where the whole economy is moving forward to and where the demand for projects is going to come from in the ultimate support in the future. So obviously regional levelling up is one of the key things that we've been looking at. And with Belfast and Appledore, we're obviously straight in the centre of those two. The rebuilding of the shipyards and the national shipbuilding strategy, again, has got great government support. And it's not just got support in the defence industry, it's also got that wider support in commercial vessels and that export market. And I think with the exit from the EU, there's a real opportunity around that space. And I think when you look at local content around vessels for renewables and the likes and licenses being dependent on local content, we see there being a real opportunity around that for UK shipyards. And I think levelling up of the UK shipyards, so it's not all happening in Scotland, in the introduction of that export market is something that there's a keen emphasis to bring forward. And I think, you know, that investment in the shipyards, it's not just all about the owners of the shipyards investing, it's about governments investing to get that export opportunity and get the economic benefit from it. When you look at the policy to power every home in the UK with renewable energy by 2030, I think I nearly swallowed my tea when I heard that coming out. It's certainly a very ambitious target. But when we look at that target, what that target means is the fabrication facilities that are available in the UK, bearing in mind the local content regulations that we spoke about above, will be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to even get remotely close to that target. In order to upgrade facilities and get things moving and get the port infrastructure and the manufacturing infrastructure, there's 160 million available for upgrading the facilities. We've put our hat in the ring for the first phase of that. And there's also the promotion in the development of shovel-ready projects. And clearly we've got one of them that's sitting right on the shelf, ready to pull out and get moving on. In the facilitation and the transition to clean energy and hydrogen by 2050, one of the things that our gas storage caverns are perfect for is moving in later life, if the demand is there, straight into hydrogen. One of the things we don't see a space for us is developing the end user technology for hydrogen at this moment in time, but we certainly believe there's a big need for storage, and all the money that's been spent on that end user technology will be academic without storage. So I think it really proves us what we've been saying all along, is that the storage caverns have got a long life cycle. Eventually when it moves to hydrogen, there'll be a transition phase there. And you know, we'll have the usual change of use and additional licenses to apply for if we do go down that route in the future. And you know, as Brexit is coming closer and closer, UK energy supplies will be coming under greater pressure as a result of Brexit and the inability to store excess renewable power. You know, when the wind's not blowing, there's not a lot of places to store power. So there's a whole piece around storage and how energy is stored. So when you look at our corporate strategy for 2021, everybody that's been at our last couple of year presentations, that there's not a lot of change in this. You know, we want to be the leading global strategic infrastructure development company and asset management company. And that's really looking through that project development, construction management, facilities operation, and then retaining an equity in those projects. The new piece underneath that you'll notice inserted is vertically integrated heavy engineering and fabrication. Nearly every one of the projects we're looking to develop and be involved in has got that heavy engineering and fabrication phase to it. Hence the reason we acquired Harland & Wolff in Belfast and subsequently Appledore. It's that link to the development, and it really gives us control of the major spend in that supply chain. And rather than just developing a project and subcontracting all the work out, it gives us an ability to retain some of that revenue inside the group. And clearly, we continue to build our high-performing team. You know, robust project evaluation criteria for projects. And I think that's something we've gone through in extensive detail recently looking at projects. And I think, you know, we've got our FSRU project that we've been on with for many months looking at. Unfortunately for it at the moment, there's so many other projects that are coming more attractive on the list, but the FSRU project isn't becoming any less attractive. There's just more attractive projects. So that's something we're looking at closely at this moment in time. Quality partners, we continue to partner with quality blue chip partners globally. We believe in a strong, resilient supply base and partners. And I think Navantia is a clear indication, and BMT for Team Resolute, of the type of company we keep. Clearly, sustainable global growth and shareholder value and creation is what we're here for, and we believe we are doing that. The business that we see before us today is completely transformed from the business that we came into a couple of years ago, and we've certainly moved on a long way from where we were. And you know, September was the first month that we managed to beat break even in the dry dock side of the business. And that was another tick in the box and another milestone that we were really pushing to get towards. And I think given that we've been in a global pandemic, you know, a lot's changed, a lot of decisions have been deferred. You know, it's not been an easy operating environment. It has been tough, but the fact that we've managed to get 19 vessels through the facility so far this year, with several more to go, with Stena Europe coming in next week, and another couple of vessels coming onto the ship repair quay, it's certainly an exciting place. And I think the interest in the business continues to grow, and will really continue to build relationships as we move forward. And the only way we continue to get additional work into the yards and into the business is by that operational excellence. And that's not done by me, that's done by the wider team, and the business won't succeed without that wider team and everybody pulling in the right direction. So if you look at our journey today, it's worth starting back between 2010, getting up towards 2017, when a lot of the investors on the call invested in this new gas storage project, which had a lot of potential. We joined the business 2018-19 and took the project through FEED. Obviously, we're in a process that we'll talk about more, in a bit of a holding pattern whilst waiting on the marine licence, which we believe will be issued shortly. In addition to that, we've also gone on and acquired Harland & Wolff in Belfast, Harland & Wolff in Appledore. And I think when you look at who we are and what we want to be when we grow up, it's really that heavy engineering, fabrication, project development and operation of strategic infrastructure assets. They're in our DA and through our existing projects and our future vision. And I think when you look at the projects across the top and the type of sectors where you've got floating wind, hydrogen, tidal energy, battery and energy infrastructure, they're certainly very attractive sectors that we're eyeing at the moment to see what opportunities may exist. And I think when you look at the two shipyards we've got, Appledore and Belfast, that floating wind is ideal. And you look at the relationship that we've got with Navantia, they're the global leader in floating wind. So there's a match made there with Windair, their partner. So I won't talk too much about the additional markets. I think we continue to evaluate, we continue to look for openings. When we look at the type of creating growth for shareholders and creating shareholder value, clearly we've got a large organic growth journey that we're on. May we have some more acquisitions if the right deal comes up and it fits into the clear and tight strategy we've got? Maybe. There's certainly nothing in the pipeline right now. Project delivery, again, it's really performing and delivering on our projects and then being cash generative and making some money. So Arun, do you want to take us through a bit of Island McGee?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Arun Raman. For those who don't know me, I am the Group CFO for InfraStrata. I'm also responsible for commercializing energy infrastructure across the group. For those who are new to the Island McGee gas storage project, and for those who are already aware of it, a quick refresh. The Island McGee gas storage project is based in Northern Ireland. It is a series of 7 storage caverns that will be leased and constructed over a 4 to 5 year period. Once it is fully constructed, it will be the largest salt cavern gas storage facility in the UK, capable of holding about 500 million cubic meters of working gas. Given the salt strata that we have and that we've observed within the region, there is further development options, whether it is additional gas caverns or for caverns in relation to hydrogen and carbon capture storage. The geology lends itself to a number of options that we are evaluating. In terms of where we are with the project, we are now awaiting the issue of the final marine license that John will discuss with you in a little more detail a little later. We intend on kicking off some pre-enabling works during the first quarter of 2021 in preparation for full-blown construction, with the final investment decision on or before the first half of the next year. Construction, as I said, is between 3 and 4 years. We expect to see first gas in our caverns in 2024. The way we have future-proofed the salt cavern storage facility and the project as a whole is to enable it to store multiple products. That includes nat gas initially, possibly hydrogen, and further on CO2. To give you a sense of where we are from a macro perspective, if you look at the chart on the bottom right, the UK has been structurally short of gas storage historically. We have about 2% of our annual demand sitting in gas storage, whereas our European neighbors have between 20 and 25% of their respective annual demand sitting in gas storage. That immediately lends itself to sudden price shocks when there is demand, when there is extreme stress on the system. And it also lends itself to extremely high prices when you have things like cold snaps like the beast from the east. What are the actual project drivers for the gas storage facility? Number one, there is no gas storage in the island of Ireland. And as I had mentioned previously, the total gas storage across the UK is about 2% of UK's demand. So we are pretty low on gas storage in terms of our security of supply, especially in winter. As we rely more and more upon renewables, we are susceptible to power blackouts, brown blackouts and blackouts as such. If you have observed the National Grid warnings over the past few months, they have indicated system stresses, and that's purely because of the sheer intermittency of renewable power. At the end of the day, we are looking at the supply of energy across the UK, which is hanging in balance. On a decent day, there's plenty of gas supply, there's plenty of power supply, but on days of peak demand and peak stress, we do have issues. As we move forward, what we are observing is that there's a very high correlation now between gas demand and power supply. When the wind doesn't blow, there is no power. When the wind blows too much, again, there is no power. If the sun doesn't shine, we do have a power problem. And the way to mitigate these problems is to have additional gas storage to provide that buffer during peak stress situations. These caverns that we are due to start constructing from next year are technically suitable for both hydrogen storage and carbon capture. So it lends itself to a long project life of 40 years and beyond. When we look at the geography of the location, one of the principal reasons we bought Harland Wolff in Belfast was the distance between the project site and the yard. The distance is about 13 nautical miles. What that effectively does is a couple of things. One, it gives us better control over our fabrication capabilities. We can fabricate a lot of the equipment that is required for the gas storage project in Harland Wolff. It also helps us to barge in large bits of kit into the project site as opposed to using surface transport through the narrow roads of Island McGee. This is a slide that we have put together to kind of demonstrate the cash flows that we see over the next 40 to 45 years across the project. These are project cash flows, so these encompass the cash flows from the entire project. As you'll appreciate, the first few years, we have a negative cash flow that stems from the capex that's required to build the facility. And from there on, we have a regular, stable cash flow generation year on year for the next 40 years. We have our finance costs, where we will be looking at leveraging some of the project capex in the initial period, and then having a bullet payment towards the end of the project life cycle. As always, once we are cash positive, there is a tax element that we have to bear across the project. Now, one of the important things that we have done over the past 2 years is we consistently evaluate the cash flows from this project and the viability of the project. If you look at the gas markets, they have not changed fundamentally over the last 2 years. If anything, it's actually become a lot more volatile. Gas prices tend to move up and down fairly aggressively within the day and within the week. And therefore, a salt cavern facility is able to capture that optionality and arbitrage between prices. So if anything, the economics have actually become better when we have looked at it over a period of time. To give you a sense of the pricing, we have priced the storage facility at an average of about 26 pence per therm. If you look at the current Q1, Q3 spreads across the forward curve in the NBP gas markets, it is already sitting at about 24 to 25 pence a therm. If you add on the spot optimization that we will be able to generate through the flow of gas in and out of the store on a daily basis, we should be able to comfortably achieve 26 pence per therm. In terms of some underlying economics, our equity IRR for the project as a whole sits at slightly over 20%. On an NPV basis, at a 10% discount rate, we are looking at an NPV of about 140 million pounds. And of course, as the NPV, as the interest rate drops, the NPV increases to about 223 at an 8% discount rate. From a revenue perspective, we're looking at, on an average, undiscounted revenues of about 2.5 to 2.6 billion pounds over the life of the project. And the undiscounted free cash flow after capex, after opex, tax, interest, etc., is about 1.68 billion pounds.
And you probably notice it's the same numbers that are up here as we actually published a couple of years ago. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the numbers are fully underpinned, that the market conditions haven't changed in that time period. And we believe we may get a bit escalation in cost for production and manufacture, but with having Highland and Wolf in the mix, we'll also get a bit of benefit. So we intend to go out to tender later this month, just to freshen up the proposal, so we're ready to go in January again. So, Arun, do you want to?
Yep. We commissioned Oxford Analytica, a very reputed organization, to conduct a study on the economic benefits of the Alimaki gas storage project for Northern Ireland in particular, but also for the whole of the UK in general. The key findings that Oxford Analytica came up with are as follows. We're looking at about 400 direct jobs that will be created in Northern Ireland during the construction phase, with about 800 to 1,200 indirect jobs during the construction phase. This will inject about 7 million into the local economy. Oxford Analytica again predicted that during construction, for every 1 million of capex that has been spent, a further 2 million will be created in the local economy. Across the economy as a whole, we expect to see an incremental benefit of around 400 million pounds. Once we are fully up and running and fully operational, this facility will create at least 60 direct jobs, and that will bring at least £1 million into the local economy. Clearly, the 60 jobs are direct, but we have a number of indirect jobs between 120 and 180 that will be created, which should bring in about 2 to 3 million pounds annually into the local economy. If you look at the energy mix that we have in the economy, in the UK economy today, we do have a strong preference towards natural gas, with renewables catching up fairly quickly. But we also have a situation where coal-fired power stations are kept on standby for times of peak stress. These are now being phased out gradually by the UK government, which effectively means that there's going to be an even more, an even greater reliance on gas burn, which again translates into a lot more gas storage that will be required to maintain that security of energy supply. We have always been, over the last 20 years, we have had the luxury of a flexible gas system, but especially over the last 10 to 15 years, we have lost that flexibility. We are looking at about 74% of UK's gas that will be imported by 2035. Again, given the geopolitical situation that we're seeing around the world and the flexibility that producers, for example, in the US have, we are looking at gas storage as an important component within the energy mix. And this has resonated across Europe. If you look at Netherlands, for example, they had a Groningen field that was a heavily producing gas field that's now in steep decline. To compensate for that loss, they now have about 35% of their domestic demand sitting in gas storage. Again, to reiterate the point, we have less than 2%. So it just goes to show the disparity between what our European neighbors are doing to protect their energy supply and what we are doing. Again, the electrification of the grid is now more and more dependent upon renewable energy, but that is by definition intermittent. And we do see that because of this intermittency, there is going to be a very large degree of gas burn over the next couple of decades. There has been a lot of discussion within government and within the energy industry in terms of how do we effectively meet the net zero ambitions by 2050. And a key element to that is going to be hydrogen, its production, its storage, and its combustion. Again, if we are to develop huge volumes of hydrogen, it has to be stored. And again, salt caverns and the Alamiki gas storage facility is an ideal location for large-scale hydrogen storage. Again, as we had mentioned, gas storage in whatever shape or form, whether it is for nat gas storage or hydrogen, it is going to be a critical complementary asset for UK's low-carbon economy. It is important to distinguish between natural gas as a fuel and gas infrastructure assets. To be completely clear, we are in the business of developing a gas infrastructure asset. We do not produce gas, we do not combust gas, we store gas. If you look at what's happening across our European neighbors, I mentioned Netherlands, which has ramped up its storage. And this is very much the case across Europe, across Baltics, where there is a growing need to secure the supply of energy, and therefore there's a growing demand for gas storage. In summary, a salt cavern storage facility like ours has got the twin benefit of multiple product storage. It has got the benefit of flexibility to meet demand requirements on a spot basis and on a long-term basis.
So that was pretty much the result of the independent report that was produced by Oxford Analytica, as Arun says. And, you know, quite a lot of this we've been saying and representing to government for many years now. But it's interesting just to have this independent document that really clarifies where we are. And clearly we've not been slow in sharing that with the various governments, the devolved government in Northern Ireland and the UK government here in London. So we've sort of shared all that information when the report hit our desk recently. And we will be publishing this report in due course once everybody's had time to digest the report and the implications of the report going forward. So the subject that's hot on everybody's lips and everybody's really excited about is the marine licence. Never did I think I'd be sat here in December 2020 still talking about a marine licence. The marine licence is something, given that where we are with the project, the work and the money that the company's invested in, doing the various environmental work that we've done and the revised packages, we see no reason why this marine licence is taking so long in how it's been dragged out. Now, I think that this slide here just gives a bit of a background of some of the activities that have gone on that marine licence all the way through. And I think what I'd like to do just for a minute is focus on some of the more recent items on the last line, just from around the Q2 of this year. In fact, let's start a bit earlier than that. We had our first consultation that was launched in December last year that was for 40 days. Now, once we reached the conclusion of that, we were approached by DERA, who said they'd made an error on the approved advertisement they provided us with to go out. So they'd like us to do another period of 40 days consultation. And look, being the good corporate citizens we are, we agreed to do that. We re-advertised and did the next period. We got to a period towards the end of that consultation where nobody was even bothering to turn up to the consultations. Everybody was consultationed out, to be fair, but we were at the start of the COVID period. And unfortunately, DERA have pretty much gone into long-term isolation during that period, and have pretty much stopped a lot of the activities, and things have slowed right down. They also informed us that they would want to advertise and go to public consultation on the existing abstraction and discharge consent. We took a little bit of umbrage to that. We've already got the licences, and I think in the next slide there's a copy of the consent to abstract and the consent to discharge. That's taken the seawater out and discharging the seawater back into the ocean. We wrote to DERA personally, then we involved lawyers. There's nothing in the legislation that permits DERA, that they're allowed to review an application, but there's nothing that permits them to consult on it again. They decided that they didn't like the legal letter, so we then went all the way to getting a legal counsel and getting a barrister's opinion, who concurred that there was no legislation available to do that. So at the moment where we are is DERA are out getting their own independent legal opinion. We've written to the First Minister, we've written to the Minister for the Economy, we've written to the Minister for the Environment, highlighting the errors in the process, enclosing a copy of our legal opinion. And the latest information that we've had is a letter from Minister Poots, who's committed to come back to us later in 2020. So we await, we've actually just sent a recent letter out last week, chasing up and asking if there's any further developments. So there's nothing in the process that concerns us, other than the amount of time that it's taken and the needless public money that's been wasted dragging the process out. So I think that this slide just goes through and really just clarifies a few more of the bits. As I said, DERA have effectively been on holiday since March, when COVID-19 broke out. We have been very patient. We've been trying to work with them at every opportunity to get through the process. Everybody in the team has done several of these before, and none of us have seen such a convoluted way this has gone. The department is obviously advised that they'll come back to us later in 2020. Now, look, from where we are at the moment, we've obviously got the existing extraction licence, discharge licence, we've got the draft marine construction licence. And if we get to a stage where they decide they want to go back and consult on these, it's another 40-day period where the information that we've already been provided out for consultation and public display is put in a room with no one else in the room, and people are allowed to come and inspect what they've already inspected before and provide feedback on it. We don't believe there's any material benefit to gain by it, and we're sure that the same questions and the same clarifications will be there. As far as funding options, they remain available, but the marine licence is escalated into the issue that it has that will need to be resolved before we move forward. Project cost reimbursement of funds invested, that's still in play, and we're spending limited money whilst we're waiting on DERA coming to the party. We're still hopeful of an outcome in 2020, but we're at the absolute mercy of DERA. We have escalated this to the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland whilst he was in Harland and Wolff recently, and we've recently escalated it to the Prime Minister, in addition to the First Minister and the devolved government and the Minister for the Economy. Given the number of jobs that have been lost around the globe, one would have thought governments would look at the economic benefit very seriously. In the meantime, we're gearing up as we go and ready to get the project moving very quickly when the licensing is in place, so that we are a shovel-ready project, and we are working on enabling works and getting them into play as we speak. We don't see there's any issues on this. And I'm sure there'll be questions on this, and we'll deal with all the questions once we get through the park. Arun, do you want a quick couple of minutes on storage?
So where do we look, where do we see ourselves within the storage space over the medium to long term? Clearly, there is a need for gas storage, and the outlook very clearly suggests that the demand for storage is there and will continue to grow in some shape or form, whether it is gas storage directly or it is regasified LNG into gas storage. You will have an element of gas storage required across the economy. The conversion of power stations from oil burn to gas is the first stage of that demand growth in gas consumption, and therefore, again, by definition, you will require gas storage. Brexit has thrown some very important consequences. One, of course, is the interconnectivity between Europe and the UK through the interconnectors. Everyone looks at their own respective national interests, and it is not uncommon for the EU to look at theirs as well. In times of peak stress, the big question to ask ourselves is, will the molecules actually flow between the EU and the UK? In the absence of that kind of flow, gas storage becomes absolutely critical. The way we view gas storage and the energy markets in particular is gas is effectively a transitionary fuel towards hydrogen. It will take quite a few years, if not decades, for us to have commercially viable volumes of hydrogen that can be utilized across the economy. Until such time that doesn't occur, nat gas is still going to be the predominant fuel for the UK economy. If you look at the diagrams on the right-hand side, just to give you a flavor of what's happening across Europe and across the world in terms of hydrogen development, we are seeing significant sums of money being poured into hydrogen technologies, into its production. The jewel in the crown, as it were, for hydrogen is effectively going to be storage from a long-term perspective. And Island McGee is ideally positioned for that scenario. What we do believe to see happen over the course of the next few years is there will certainly be an element of hydrogen production coming on stream. It will not be sufficient to power up the whole of the economy. However, you are going to see a certain amount of blending that will be introduced into the gas grids to complement natural gas. Again, given Northern Ireland's geology and given its salt strata, we believe that Northern Ireland in particular will be a massive play and a global leader in the storage of hydrogen over the long term.
So that's us finished on Isle of Magee for this evening, but we'll pick up the comments on Isle of Magee at the end of the presentation. So I think we'll just flick on to video now.
The Harland and Wolff iconic dock in Belfast is obviously well known globally. It dates right back prior to the Titanic. The place is steeped in history. InfraStrata got involved in December last year. We acquired the yard. We're now a two-dock operation. We've got Harland and Wolff Belfast at the top end of the market. You've got Harland and Wolff Appledore at the bottom end of the market. So we've got a lot of synergies with the two yards. We've spent the last few months really getting the yard back up to standard. We've spent a lot of time upgrading and maintaining the cranes. It's the only shipyard in the UK with this size of dock that's got that size of crane. One of the biggest docks in Europe, which really positions us well. By the middle of next year, our facilities will really be operational and cooking on gas again. We're looking to be broad across numerous sectors, from the original design of a vessel through the construction and through that whole through-life maintenance piece to the final demise when vessels reach the end of their life and get decommissioned. We've already hit a few milestones. It's the first time 3 cruise ships have been in this yard, for example, since 1912. The Prime Minister explained whilst he was down in Appledore, he really wants to see the shipbuilding industry in the UK regenerated and us becoming a leader in that area as we move forward. To do that, we need skills, we need the apprentices coming through. We've got an ageing workforce, we've got the apprenticeship scheme that we're in the process of launching now. We talk a lot in Harland and Wolff about one team, and we are one team from the management through to the workers in the yard. We're on a journey, and that'll only continue to get better and bigger. It's been a busy year, but I think it's only going to get even busier. We're so excited for the next decade that we've got going forward. I'm immensely proud looking out over the whole of the shipyard here in Belfast and in Appledore. We've got massive amounts of potential. It's all about expanding, it's all about getting more work through the facility to really build a strong, positive business for the future. We think the opportunity is massive and the world's our oyster as we move forward.
I believe there was an issue with the volume on the video. So what we'll do with the volume is we'll share the video on social media, and the whole presentation, hopefully with some volume, will be on our website from probably tomorrow morning. So I apologise for that. It's my initial movie debut has been skewed a little bit, but I apologise for that. But we will get that video out to you. So look, we've brought in a management team into Harland and Wolff that are top class across the board. Perry Kennedy is the group managing director that is looking after Belfast and Appledore, along with the rest of his team. The guys are doing a great job, really coming together with a one team mentality, which is what you need to survive and thrive in the environment that we're in. So this is my challenge to describe a rich picture to you, and I'm sure some of you will only be looking at this on small screens. So I'll have a go at doing this in a short order of time. Usually with a client, it probably takes us about an hour and 20 minutes to get through this diagram. I'll give you a brief overview. Really what you've got here in the bottom left-hand corner is the yard, where it was, turnover of ownership, no clear strategy, and lots of peaks and troughs in the business as it's moved forward. We move along We've come into the business with a long-term commitment into the business. We've now developed a strong pipeline that I'll talk about in a couple of slides' time across the different markets and different sectors. Lots of exciting projects coming through, the thought leadership and the trust in the leadership team that we've put in place to develop. Clearly, we've got Appledore, we've got InfraStrata, we've got Island McGee, we've got Harland and Wolff and Belfast. And then we go along the journey of putting all the jigsaw pieces together and laying the roadmap to unlocking our future and getting that curiosity, trust in behaviour and working with clients. Then it's not just about us and being on that journey as industry's disruptors. And we do intend to be very peaceful, friendly disruptors, but we do intend to disrupt the industry that we have already done in that marine and fabrication space. But it's also about the local communities that we work with, really bringing that talent out of the community and making careers for the next generation and a career that they want to come into, and endorsing apprenticeships, career development, retraining. And I think, InfraStrata's role in this is investing in the skills, investing in the communities, and investing in the facilities. But we can't do this alone. We're also doing this with a supply chain that we're bringing along on the journey with us and our partners. And when we look along into the shipyard, technology is clearly going to play a great part. Whilst Island McGee and that short distance, there's a lot of work and a lot of project delivery experience in the shipyard and fabrication methods that we can share between Island McGee and between Harland and Wolff and Belfast. And again, if you look at the largest two docks in the UK, one of only two docks that can dock the Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carriers, and I think it's within 10 years with a bit of global warming, it will be the only dock that can take Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carriers. Moving along, we've obviously got Appledore, only a short trip up the Irish Sea, which gives you the added benefit of being able to share projects and share components of projects between the two yards. Then we've got the opportunity for export and international affiliation and accreditation of businesses. But clearly, to achieve all this, we need to have a lot of political engagement. We've got the national shipbuilding strategy that's been set out. We've got a JV that's set out with Navantia. It's one JV. We've got several others that we're considering that. And I think when you look at what we intend to do with these facilities, it's about this vertically integrated engineering capacity for our own projects, but it also goes further than that. We're having Harland and Wolff is a standalone business generating its own income and providing profits to redistribute to shareholders and to invest in the next generation of the business. So we're looking at that end-to-end engineering excellence from the design and engineering at the start of a project through to fabrication of bridges, structures, things like Hickley Point, power stations. There's a lot of fabrication that will need to be done in places like that, through to blocks for vessels like FSS, going through to your refits, your repairs, your maintenance, and then at the end of your in-service support, then at the end of the project, the decommissioning of the vessels. You then move up through, that's what we intend to do, that's the sectors that we'll be working in, the markets that we will be working in, cruise and ferry, oil and gas, commercial, renewables and defence. And look, there's a lot of learning, advancing in technology and sharing that goes on between all of those. And then, as I said earlier, it's up to the top here with civil engineering and civil works. And again, joint ventures is something in transfer of technology across into the shipyards. So if you look at the commercial overview of where we are, We acquired Belfast on the 5th of December 2019, Appledore on the 24th of August 2020. Look, there are unique facilities at the top and bottom end of the market. Each facility has got an optimum overhead to win work in its individual sector. Belfast, we've got phase 1 and 2 of the reactivation now completed, and we've got both docks up and running. We did bring forward some planned maintenance work with COVID in mind to get that out of the way with the downturn in the market that we experienced. The blended margins that we've achieved on the projects have been in line with our expectations. We've got exactly where we wanted to be. We've got some key wins. We've got repeat clients coming back, which is always good. We commenced with small projects to build clients' confidence to begin with. I remember back on the 23rd of December when we brought our first ship into the yard. I think it was 15 days or something like that from when we acquired the yard, and to ramp up that effort in that short space of time and get the vessels turned around and out of the yard again was a great achievement. The contract values have increased by 5, 6, 7 times from where we started off back in December. As I mentioned earlier, we've hit that break-even number in the ship repair and conversion side, operating through the dry docks. Contracts are only starting to reach the material stage now, and I think one of the things we hear a lot about, and I probably get 200 LinkedIn messages a week and as many emails and tweets, and everybody wants more information. And I think the key thing here is we are trying several different things. When contracts are not material, there is no way to release them via RNS. And look, a lot of the stuff that's going on, we've got competitive confidentiality that if we're working on 3 or 4 ships for an owner, we don't particularly want to announce that we've won the first one and not the second one. But look, we are trying very hard to get information out in sessions like this. We've got 4 planned during a year. We have got LinkedIn, we've got Twitter and other social media platforms, and we do use RNS. And I think as contracts continue to grow in size, which we expect them to, I think we'll see more RNSs around trading in trading position. But what we don't want to do is give away our competitive position to our competitors. Near-term revenues, we've got about 40 million identified that we're chasing actively at the moment. Some is very close, some's a little bit further away. Current break-even numbers for the 2 yards, we're looking in that 20 to 25 million number to get to break-even for the whole of the yard. And one of the ways we're operating the yards is we've split the yards really into the dry dock side of the business and the fabrication side of the business. So I think the opportunity that we have, obviously, 2 of the largest dry docks in Europe gives us a tremendous opportunity as we move forward, and we've got the largest undercover dry dock. Now, if you look at one of the key reasons why we went for Appledore, when you look at there's over 110 vessels in that under 120 metres size that will require to get built for the UK market alone, in that sovereign market. And when I talk about sovereign, I talk about governments or government agencies. And that yard is the yard that will be specialist undercover and the only yard of its type with the water access and the depth to build those vessels. So we think that's a really strong position. It also strengthens and de-risks our position when we're looking at other larger projects for Belfast, because one of the key things when people are analysing risk in a project, well, if you fall behind, how do you recover from this project? Having a second shipyard that's only a short passage of a sea trip away on a barge really reduces that risk, so it will improve our position. So operations in 5 different markets, 6 sectors, given specific industry downside protection. We always look to operate for one reason or another. There'll be 1 or 2 markets down or 1 or 2 sectors down. And I think when you analyse and you look at all the many dissertations that have been written on the ship repair market for years, one of the things that ship repair yards have done very badly and fabrication yards have done very badly is stuck really to one market in one sector rather than branching out. Fixed regulatory periods to inspect vessels. All vessels have between 3 and 5 years that they need to get inspected. There's numerous vessels at the moment that are either falling out of class or on extensions, and we expect to see a glut, and we're already seeing it at the moment, extensive vessels and number of vessels that will need dry docking in the near future. 1 or 2 docks that's licensed for substantial marine waste disposal in the UK, and the largest dock for that, a big building dock. And I had one question that I had sent to me before was, what's the difference between the building dock and the Belfast dock? One dock's bigger than the other is the clear thing. It's also got a wider beam in it. You can actually dock 2, we've looked at one project recently that will dock 3 cruise ships in the dock at the same time to reduce owners' costs in docking by doing that triple docking. In addition, the water depth in the Belfast dock is higher than the water depth in the building dock. So, as I said, 1 of 3 main shipyards suitable for MOD work of a certain size. We've got a weighted pipeline of over 1.3 billion of projects that we're looking at between now and 2025. And we've got opportunities between the 2 facilities, if they're at 80% capacity, to get to around 536 million in the medium term. Now, that number is assuming you've got the right blend of projects in the right places and actually growing the other aspects of the business. So if we look quickly at the facilities, I'm sure you've all seen the Belfast facility. You've got the main building dock here. You've got the commissioning quay here. You've got the engine works quay here. You've got the Belfast dock down this end. And then you've got the ship repair quay that runs all the way along here. And you've got deep water access straight into the lock there. When we look at and people ask, what's happening and, what have you done and how's it been affected by COVID? What we set out a strategy at the beginning really was get the Belfast dock up and running. That was our key priority. Phase 2 was getting that building dock up and running. And then phase 3 was to get the fabrication side of the business back up and running. What we actually did in between these 2 phases is what you can see here is the belt on the bottom right of the screen. This is the dock gate of the Belfast dock getting unhinged off its hinges and floated out. We made the decision to take this dock gate out and do its 15-year survey. And the reason we chose to do that is before the Queen Elizabeth class contract that we're tendering at the moment comes into play, we wanted to be in a position to say that dock was up to date with its maintenance and it would be fully in class all the way through. The picture you can see up above here is actually the dock gate from the Belfast dock inside the building dock, and that shows you the bottom wheels of that dock gate. So that's all been back fitted, and we've now got both docks in operation. In September was that first month that we had both docks up and running. When we look at Appledore, much smaller site, Belfast 85 acres, Appledore's only 28 acres. We've actually own the freehold of Appledore. We only lease the Belfast yard. You've got the main building hall here. It's an undercover dock of 120 metres. And then further along here, you've got the Newquay slipway, various other sheds and stores that are required for shipbuilding, all in good condition and looking ready to go. Sorry, just one last thing. The dock gates in here, we're going through an exercise at the moment that these dock gates will be lifted out. They will be upgraded and the maintenance will be done on the dock gates, and they'll go back in early 2021. The other side of this business is the slipway, where we can dock vessels up to around the slipway's 95 metres long. We can dock vessels on here, depending on size and beam and weight, probably up to about that 70 metres. The picture on the right was the asset when we inherited it. We needed our garden shears to get in about the asset. When you look at the pictures on the left-hand side, that's the current state of the asset. We hope to get our first vessel docked on there within the next couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. If you look upper, obviously the slipways reactivated. We've got the dock gate repair work in the main yard to do, and then we've got the reactivation in the main yard. Now, what we won't do is we won't ramp up that main yard until we've got a contract to put in it. We want to keep the overhead as low as we possibly can. We've got inquiries at the moment for 9 new build vessels that are live, and we've got numerous renewable inquiries. So there's lots in the pipeline, but let's see where we get to on that one. So just to summarise, some of you will have seen this, some of you won't. Our sectors are defence, commercial, oil and gas, cruise and ferry and renewables. Our sectors on that complete life cycle management, technical services, fabrication and construction. And that can be blocks of ships, it can be full ships, repairs and maintenance, in-service support. Now that may be where we send a crew of 30, 40 people away from the shipyard to go and do refurnishment work on a vessel, then your major conversion work, and then finishing up with decommissioning. So if we look at, just to give you a bit of an idea and give you a bit more insight into what we look at on a day-to-day basis, and if you look at our current pipeline by market, and we look through defence, commercial, oil and gas, cruise and ferry and renewables, and you look at the opportunities of the weighted and the unweighted pipeline in each, then if you look at how we're actually looking at reactivating by market, clearly cruise and ferry is in key full swing. We believe renewables will kick in into early 21. Commercial's already kicked in with some light work, and it'll kick in more in 2021. Oil and gas and defence are more slow burners. And if you look at the ratios of our weighted to our unweighted pipeline, you're starting off with cruise and ferry, renewables, commercial, oil and gas and defence. But just because we see defence as a longer, slower burner to develop, we're still actively involved in sales and marketing in that field. So if you then switch that position and you look at that pipeline by the various different sectors, this is our weighted and unweighted pipeline since we acquired the yard. And this is the area that we're really focusing on, repairs and maintenance and conversion. You can tell that fairly easily by the high differential between the ratio between the weighted and the unweighted. Then looking into that conversion, 41%, 35%. Then you look, down towards technical services that we've really not done anything on to really boost other than in-house work. Then the in-service support work that we're looking at is way out in the distance, so it's got a lot more lower probability. So I think, as we reactivate the sectors and build relationship, our weighted to unweighted pipeline ratio increases substantially. So if we look at the UK shipyard and fabrication yard structure in the UK, this will just give you a bit of a background of where we are. Harland and Wolff Belfast is operating in this sector. We've got Appledore down in this sector. Then you've got the crowded middle sector where the majority of the other UK yards are. And look, the key competitors as we see ourselves with at the moment is BAE Systems and Babcock's and Peel Holdings, who own Cammell Laird and the A&P Group. When we look at the facilities that we've got and some of the things that they're capable of and have done in the past, this is one of the recent patrol boats that was built for Ireland, and they're looking at another package of vessels. They really enjoyed working in the yard. These are the bulbous bow sections that were made for the Queen Elizabeth and the Prince of Wales that were made in Appledore. We've got the renewables project that was made for East Anglia 1 in Belfast. This is the last new build vessel that was made in Belfast, where you can see that the bow section's just been secured onto it. And then we've obviously got the cruise vessels that we've recently brought into Belfast. We're getting through the slides. We've only got 2 or 3 more to go. Sorry, we have gone on a bit longer. We will get to questions shortly. Team Resolute, lots of questions. I get emailed daily about Team Resolute. The top question there is, you know, it's a UK build. Does that mean Team Resolute is defunct? Well, the one thing, when you look at where that ship's sitting in our market and literature, getting built, it's not getting built in Spain in Navantia's yard. It's actually sitting getting built in our building dock in Harland and Wolff in Belfast. So our position has always been that the vessel would be assembled, commissioned and delivered in the UK if we were successful enough to win the project. We have a really strong team with BMT and Navantia. There's been some recent guidance encouraging UK and overseas collaboration around you know, technology transfer, ramping up. And I think, you know, one of the great things about Team Resolute is it's not just looking at this project, it's looking at 2 or 3 other defence projects, it's looking at wind farm projects, it's looking at cruise projects. And I think one of the key things that this project will be judged on when the evaluation criteria is considered will be economic value. And Team Resolute have the potential to create enormous economic value, not just in the UK, but in an export capacity to projects outside the UK also. You know, by partnering, we really improve our capability, you know, reduced risk and a credible offering, integrated with Navantia's management and information and project management into an integrated project management team. There's ongoing interaction with defence. And the management team have done this before. This is a project that was built in Spain and taken over to Australia. And here was modules being built in Australia and applied onto the vessel. So if we look at what differentiates us, Arun, do you want to do this slide?
Yeah, we often get asked the question of why are we different? There are 2 angles to this. One is from a business perspective. Clearly size does matter, especially for the cruise and defence industries. Our dock sizes are the 2nd largest in Europe, the largest in the UK, and we have a massive 85-acre footprint, which enables a lot of load out for fabrication capabilities for the wind farm industry. Our physical size of assembly and fabrication halls of over 30,000 square meters is also very useful for large pipelines for, again, fabrication for the wind industry. We've taken the time to build a management team, put it together, and a team that understands all 5 markets and all 6 sectors. The team is very well known across the industry, The very fact that we acquired the yard on the 5th of December and had 2 vessels coming in 2 weeks later, I believe is testament to the fact that we are known for our professional integrity and our commitment to quality and to our clients. And we're also seeing that with the repeat business as we have moved through this process over the last 10 months. We have a strategy across 5 markets, 6 sectors, which effectively de-risks the P&L and the balance sheet. In the event 1 or 2 markets fall over or go through a cyclical downturn, we have the other 3 markets that will keep the P&L propped up. There is a duopoly existing within the defense industry, which the Ministry of Defense would like to see changed. We have always alluded to the fact that we are disruptors. We want to be disruptors, but equally we want to be friendly disruptors. So it's a question of partnering with competitors, with like-minded counterparties, and getting the job done. We are encouraged by a lot of positive government policy that promotes leveling up, that promotes exports, whether it is in terms of the contacts that are provided internationally or even export-related finance. We are in the thick of these discussions, both with government and with overseas clients. A key market for us going forward, given the size of our docks, is clearly the cruise market. The next generation of cruise vessels are going to be much larger in size. They require larger docks, deeper docks, and Harland Wolff Belfast is ideally situated to meet those requirements. That's the kind of business side to it, but equally we are in the process of building a company, building a team that has and cherishes certain values. These are, as we call it, soft skills, but equally these are very important to develop a positive culture in the company and to keep the team together and make them perform, just like all of us. What are these values? We want to be nimble as a starting point, and that means we will always work in small teams. We'll have a very focused team structure and take decisions quickly. We want to strive for the best. And when each of us do our best, it automatically motivates others to do their best. We do not play on our weaknesses. We always play on our strengths. We know that we understand the shipyard business very well. We understand energy infrastructure very well. We do not venture into areas that are unknown or we have no experience in. We are always engaged fully both with clients and with all our employees. The key to this industry, and for that matter any industry, is to bring forward the next generation, is to empower our employees with decision-making capabilities, and that's exactly what we are doing. And then finally, when we look at this business, we have got to think outside the box. We have to explore new ideas. We have to challenge the existing dogma and make sure that what we are doing is different, it is cost-effective, and it is useful for the client.
Thanks for that, Arun. So just to summarise on a few key points that we've gone through and made this evening, you know, we're looking at creating shareholder value through organic growth, astute acquisitions, and delivering projects on time and within budget. You know, when we look at the UK shipbuilding and defence market, that's something that there's not much been done of recently, and we aim to change that. When you look at the key stats around where we can be, turnover medium term 536 million, dry docks side of the business broke even in September, weighted pipeline 1.3 billion to 2025. We've got a risk split across 5 markets, 19 vessels docked already, 200 people in the yard, including contractors, and 9 new build inquiries in the shipyard. And that's a mixture of vessels between Appledore and Belfast. Marine licence expected during 2020. I'll certainly treat myself to a rather large brandy if that hits before Christmas. Look, we're ready and we're keen. We've been sat on our hands for a year. We're keen to get that project moving. We're in constant dialogue with the project funders. Given the government's commitment to energy and given the government's commitment to shovel-ready projects, we still believe there is a chance of securing funding to retain a substantially improved equity position in the project. And those discussions have recently restarted on our expectation that the marine licence will be issued. Because look, there's simply no reason why the licence shouldn't be issued. Both the UK and devolved governments, are trying to stimulate the economy, and we're well placed with that shovel-ready project. And it is a project that both governments need. And look, having considered the government policy and the future growth trajectory, that the FSIU has fallen down our list of the top 5 areas, which we're looking at, which is wind, floating wind, hydrogen, tidal, battery and energy infrastructure. That doesn't mean to say we won't still do it, but it's certainly that there's projects that are more attractive given where the economy is going to. All the strategic projects we consider have really got that heavy engineering and fabrication opportunities in the DNA and running through them. So we really want to be involved in projects that can add value and retain value in the group. Harland and Wolff Belfast, we hope, and we're in the final process of re-establishing that fabrication capacity and getting that back up and running by the end of the year. The slipway in Appledore, as I mentioned, we're just finishing off the last few bits on that. And we expect to get that operational shortly and get the fast vessel up there, and the dock gates will be removed through November for repairs, and then they'll be back in position in early January. Dry docks over the first month are reaching break even, as I mentioned. We've got significant potential to improve as we continue to increase the size of the contracts, bigger jobs, more sophisticated jobs, more detailed jobs. I mean, I was immensely proud when I was out looking at some of the work that the guys were undertaking, cutting the side out of vessels, removing stern tubes, shafts, realigning propulsion units and everything. And, we're really manning up and really getting into some of those more technically challenging projects. And the beauty is we've got clients that are coming back, seeing how we operate. Trading in 5 different markets in 6 different sectors, a reduced risk profile and given that diverse range of opportunities. And we've got UK fabrication capacity as a whole amongst all our competitors reaching its maximum position. And we believe that, with all the other programmes that are ongoing, HS2, Hinkley Point, warship construction, civil construction, there is no more fabrication capacity at the moment in the UK. So we believe that there is a huge opportunity there. And the company's active in key sectors that have government backing. So look, thank you very much, everybody that's been involved. And I think when I was looking up at the screen there, I saw 143 people involved in the call at one point. And look, it may have been higher than that. But I think that's a tremendous effort from everybody that's shown an interest in the company. So we'll now move off the presentation slides and we'll move on to some questions. And look, I know everybody's been here for a while and everybody's been very patient. We'll try and get through as many questions as we possibly can. Okay, so I've got questions up here. Michael Lowe, what are your plans for Harland and Wolff employee numbers over the next 6 to 12 months? Well, clearly we're looking to increase employee numbers substantially. We're also looking to get a new apprenticeship scheme up and running. But one of the things we're keen not to do is employ too many people, because what we don't want to do is ramp up and then ramp down again. So we're really keen to get that. So I think, you know, we'll end up in position where I think it will go. We'll probably be up to 450, 500 with staff and contractors next year, with knowing what we know and what we think may happen. But look, until contracts are signed, you know, you don't ramp up. So look, very positive. It's great to see the team building and moving forward. Okay, and Sina, do you want me just to go through in this list? Or yeah, okay. So the next question from Tom Barnum. Are Crown Estates lease agreements fully executed? Yes, Tom, they're fully executed, and I've got the documents sat on my desk, so there's no issues there. What is the new PM working on short-term priorities? The new project manager, Mark, that's joined the team, great guy. He's working at the moment on enabling works and getting that moving. I've still carried on directly with the marine licence in the environmental side of it, and he's also working on doing some due diligence on some other stuff that we're looking at. So look, it's all short-term priorities around getting ready to start moving forward with Island McGee. What we've been taking the time off over the past year, we've been looking through our risk register and really taking some time to de-risk the project and get some of the unknowns that we didn't have time to deal with before done. Blimey, you've got a few questions in here, Tom, getting value for money. Number 3, how is the 26p storage tariff fee established and what does it offer the user? Well, I'm going to bat that right across to you, Arun.
Hi, Tom. The 26p storage capacity fee is effectively the fee that we are charging to the client for the use of the storage capacity on an annual basis. This fee is a combination of a number of factors, which include, among other things, the annual Q1, Q3 spread that we observe every year, plus an element of spot optimization. Whenever the client takes gas out of the store or injects gas, there is a charge that we shall levy on the client for that arbitrage, whether it's within day charge or it's a weekday charge or a weekend charge. There is a model that we have developed that will account for spot optimization, and therefore we'll take a slice of the margin that the client makes. So it's a combination of a number of factors that bring the capacity charge to an average of 26p per therm on an annual basis.
Thanks, Arun. Tom, your fourth part of the question, what is the indicative time frame for the award of the marine licence and other 2 licences? DERA have indicated need further public consultation. Well, it is DERA who have read from my numerous and copious volumes of paper that I've sent them. We are not of the same opinion that they need any further public consultation. But look, if they do and something comes around, you know, it'll be an additional 40 days, but it won't be anything we're directly involved in. It'll just be the project documents placed in a room. But look, we've got the leading barrister in this field giving us a pretty much cast iron opinion, which doesn't happen very often, saying that additional consultation isn't required. So it's not something we believe will happen at this stage. But look, we're dealing with government. Anything is possible. So we're, you know, we're covering bases. And look, if we do have to do an additional 40 days, we've asked them just to get on with it, make a determination so we can get that moving if it has to be done. Daw family, hello Michael, thank you for your continued support. Why have all 3 Vikings now departed, and are they likely to return? Do we have actual or potential major refit contracts with Viking cruises supported by government export credit guarantees in the making? I was depending on something significant here, thanks Mike. Well, you'll notice the 3rd Viking Cruises vessel left today. We did put in place and spend a lot of time with them putting export credit guarantees in place. They decided for internal reasons not to accept that line of funding at this stage in the journey. And I think that's all around the cruise industry and what they're looking to do. So we have done bits and pieces on board. Work was finished up yesterday, and we were very keen for them to depart the berth as quickly as they possibly could, because we need the berth clear and accessible. And you know, there's other things happening in the yard. You know, where are we with the cruise industry? It's probably worth just touching a minute on that. Look, I think, you know, having been involved in the cruise industry for many years, you know, the cruise industry, when 9/11 happened, everybody expected it to be never recovering back from that. It did. It recovered even stronger. It was decimated. The same with Ebola, the same with SARS. So the industry has continued to kick back. When we look at where the cruise industry is at the moment, a lot of the older ships have been scrapped. Actually, 60% of those vessels were already planned to be decommissioned and taken out of service. We're seeing a really strong level of inquiry around dry dockings, recertifications in the next 12, 18 months. We expect cruises to restart in the first quarter next year. We expect a gradual ramp up. Then we think the floodgates will open. If you notice some of the news that's out there, it's the strongest ever bookings that Carnival and Royal Caribbean, and I think Celebrity, have seen in their history. So I think once this is all done, I think we all need a good blooming holiday. And, you know, cruise industries is good a place as any to go. There has been a lot of work done in plan to get done on these upcoming dockings that will come in around recertification and actually getting projects back up and running like 100% fresh air going into dry docks. Robin Bide, I noticed that you're hiring. Sorry, I just moved the question. I noticed that you're hiring additional estimators. Can you talk about access to skilled engineers and technicians? We're actually really impressed with the number of people that are out there. We did a careers day in Appledore because we didn't know what was available per se. We had lots of anecdotal evidence and, you know, conversations around what skills were there. We had over 600 people attend the skills day, and, you know, there's a huge pool of talent down there. And I think, you know, really skilled people. One of the key things that came across when we've spoken to clients that have had vessels built there before, that they're really complementary of the people and the skills. When you look in Belfast, we've ramped up from the 60 that we started with up to that 200 with a blend of permanent and subcontract. We've had no issues so far in ramping up, and we don't really see any major issue at that moment, this moment in time. So once the marine licence is granted, and there are from Simon Radcliffe, once a marine licence is granted and there are other approvals required before development can start, which are also subject to consultation. Well, I think, Simon, we've pretty much covered that conversation as we've gone through the evening. So I noticed that question was at 7:27, so we've probably got through that in quite a bit of depth now. We don't believe that there's anything after the marine licence that requires consultation. We do have some conditions on the planning that's been issued, and that's really just about complying with the planning consent. So that's all good. And we see that as a fairly straightforward process from here on in. And we're clearly in dialogue with the planning authorities as we go through looking at getting that project moving. But, you know, as we speak about hydrogen and as we speak about carbon capture and that, any changes as we move forward, we would require to go back and get operational permissions and consents, which we would do in accordance with the regulations. Arun, I think this is one for you.
Yeah,
what would the UK gas storage percentage increase to if all caverns were full of gas?
Well, once the gas storage facility is fully constructed and operational, the total UK gas storage volume would go from 2% of annual demand to roughly 4% of annual demand. So it is still going to be quite tiny, but it will be at least a significant jump from where we are today.
No, cool. Thank you, Arun. Lee Harrison. Hi, as a shareholder, we're constantly looking for snippets and hints of contracts, additional works for Harland and Wolff, going so far as to look on the vessel finder. Well, to be fair, Lee, when I want to know what's happening in Harland and Wolff, I'll just look at a lot of the shareholders and what they're telling me, because they're very well researched and very well educated. And look, I think the key thing around formal updates, clearly we're in the middle of a global pandemic. You know, it's not the year that we planned for this year with the effects that the pandemic's had. And we've not put out any forecasts purely because we don't know what's happening next week in relation to the pandemic or what the implications that could be. When we talk about reporting, we have given a lot of thought to quarterly reporting, but we think for the time being we'll stick at half-yearly reporting. And I think when we talk about revenues and contract details, you know, I'm a Scotsman. I like keeping everything close to my chest so we don't give the opposition any of the projects we're working on. Clearly, the revenue and numbers will come out in detail in our accounts that will be published shortly. Then when we look going forward, we're now getting into this stage. Now, when we get to this stage, as we move on, we're getting to more contracts that will be material and will be announceable. So I think you'll actually start seeing a chunk of contracts coming through. And look, the number of small contracts that come in, it's just not viable to issue an RNS for every bit of news that comes in. That's why we do try and share stuff on the social media platforms. And look, we've taken it on board. I've had the same question and the same comment from a few people. And look, we will take it on board and we will try and get as much information as we can. But obviously there's a lot of stuff that we do in commercial confidentiality and are subject to NDAs and things like that. Has a feed, Chris Lawler, has a feed engineering company been selected for the FSRU Barrow project? No, not at the moment. You know, we're still looking at that in quite a bit of detail, and we hope to make a decision on what we're going to do with that this year. As I said earlier, there's just so many projects around that may be a better fit for what we're trying to do right now than the FSRU. It's still a really good project. It's still got potential huge returns in it. But is it the right project for us at the moment? And that's the question we're battling with. So hopefully we'll come back to you shortly with some more details on that once we finally reach a conclusion on it. Bruce, good to see you on the call, Bruce. Thanks for the update, much appreciated. What makes you optimistic the marine licence will be issued shortly? We've been hearing this for a long time. Yeah, tell me about it. Now, since it's quite a digital, this is quite a digital event, either it happens or it doesn't. It is now critical that success is achieved shortly. Is the agreement with the offtake partners still valid? Well, I've gone into that a little bit around the conversations we're still having with funders. We're still having, I had Arun on the phone to Vitol, was it earlier on this week? I think Tuesday or Wednesday, I had Arun on the phone to Vitol having some fairly advanced discussions. So that's still all boiling away. And look, I totally and utterly understand the frustration around this licence, because, you know, it's been the bugbear for me for a long time now, and I've gone round in circles with it. And, you know, we are at the mercy, unfortunately, of DERA to issue that licence. We don't believe there's any reasons why it won't be issued. And to be fair, we won't leave any stone unturned until it does get issued, because precedence has been set in various other projects and various other interpretations of the rules and the regulations, which stands us in great shape. So look, we believe it will happen. And you know, why am I optimistic? I've got the legal opinion that I went for, just so that, you know, it wasn't just my over-optimisticness that was kicking through. We've had two sets of lawyers look at it. We've had the barrister look at it. We've had Mark Jessup, the new project manager that's come in, that's done this numerous times before. We've had other specialists look at it, and none of us can see any reasons why it won't be issued. So look, I think that's you know, where we are with that one. The Michael Brennan, hi, are we halfway through and are talking about 2027 onwards cash flows? Can we please get an update on near-term cash flows? Arun, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, hi, Michael. I think you sent this message at about 7:30, so I'm hoping that we have answered your question, but just to clarify again, in terms of near-term cash flows, we have identified over £40 million worth of business that we are aggressively bidding for in the near term, with a cash break-even of between 20 and 25 million. We have already broken even on the dry docks in September this year. So we are on track to hopefully meet that target. I think one of the things that we must remember is whatever we are doing both on the shipyard side and on the energy infrastructure side are complicated. They do take time. A 1.4 billion FSS type project does not land on our doorstep every 3 months. It's a process that we have to follow. The 300 million pound LNG gas storage project is a process that we have to follow, and it has to come to fruition. So these are projects that are viable, that we are aggressively fighting for, and that will come to fruition. But these are large scale projects that do take a bit of time. In the interim, we have to focus on the ship repairs, on the ferry repairs, on the cruise market that will bring in the revenue that will keep the company stable, sustainable, and also profitable.
Thanks for that, Arun. Shaffer Hunt, the next question is from you. Given the location of Island McGee, do you envisage your primary customers being from Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, the UK, or all three? Arun, do you want to say that?
Hi, Schäferhund. That's a lovely German name. At the moment, we have one client, and that client is Vitol. They operate out of Switzerland and London. We don't have visibility on the end customer they provide the gas to, so it could very well be consumers within the island of Ireland as well as mainland UK. Our key focus is to deliver performance in the store to one single client whom we have on the books at the moment.
Robin, light frigates, the UK government has identified a potential export market for 40 light frigates over the next 8 to 10 years. The UK is offering the Type 31E, amongst others, to be fair. I think that there's not just the Type 31E in that mix. To what degree are you getting involved with this programme? We obviously speak to all the prime contractors in the UK on a regular basis. I sit on the Marine Enterprise Working Group, which Babcock and BA are members of, and numerous conversations occur in relation to all the ongoing programmes. Look, we are happy to work and partner with any of the main yards as a subcontractor looking at component pieces and sending them to their yards for installation. And I think the UK market's matured a lot over the years, and I think there's a lot more of a collaborative approach on how work is produced, how yards need to work together to get the greater good. So look, we're working on numerous programmes, not just the Type 31E, there's many programmes that we're actually pre-qualified across commercial, and we're now pre-qualified for some other defence programmes. So we continue to chase all the avenues. Ivan Sedgwick, what is delaying DARA or environmentalists? Look, I think for me the biggest problem that I've seen is that as soon as COVID hit, DARA scattered, and their office has pretty much been closed since. Perhaps if their office was open and they were working normal hours, things may progress. The ministers assures me, Minister Poots assures me that they're all working very hard on it. He thanked us for all the effort that we had gone to answer the questions that we had many months ago. So look, that's where we are. And look, we do have some environmentalists that have a different opinion from us, who have put in some thoughts around it. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of backup of science and evidence gone along with that. But everybody's entitled to their opinion and to put forward their point of view. We've responded with the facts and the data and the evidence that we've collated. Tom, what has been the response from key ministers that have been consulted? Look, I think the ministers are all very supportive. They all like the InfraStrata story. When we get into conversations, things do happen very quickly. And look, I really don't want to go into the individual ministerial conversations that we've had, apart from saying that, they are supportive and they do realise the economic benefit that InfraStrata, Island McGee and Harland and Wolff bring. Just looking at the next question. Is Harland and Wolff well booked in the next 3 months? From Michael, we've got numerous contracts that we're in the process of negotiating, some that are booked, some that are pending, some letter of intent. So keep watching the vessel management system that you guys are on, and I'm sure it will show up vessels arriving in the not too distant future. Michael, Vidal, is it intended to look to try and have other gas storage facilities elsewhere in the UK or abroad? Look, Michael, we're always on the lookout to see if there's anything that fits our portfolio. There's nothing active at the moment. We have looked at four other gas storage sites, some in the UK, some overseas. Look, we've got a tight criteria of what we're looking at and what it needs to comply with. So there's nothing really hit the buttons that we want to do. So I think, look, we just need to keep looking and see what turns up. Rob, guys, the focus seems to have been on gas. Surely the driver is contracts in the shipyard. Rob, look, I think we've got both projects in the portfolio. We've got a team that's working on gas. We've got a team that's working on the shipyards. The two are completely independent, working on the two sides of the business. So look, all the effort that needs to go into the shipyard business and securing contracts is being made. And look, I think, you do need to realise that we are in a global pandemic. So the ability of us to get out and get in front of clients in offices has been pretty hampered. So we are doing everything we can remotely. And look, I think one of the things we need to appreciate is to go from a shipyard that was closed, that hadn't had a ship in the dry dock for many months and years, to go to having 19 ships through that yard in the middle of a global pandemic is something that's quite remarkable, and I'm actually really proud of the team for getting that. And I think, you know, given the circumstances we've been in, it's been a great first year. Clearly, it's not where we wanted to be. I think we're probably 6 months behind where I would ideally wanted. But look, given where we are as a country, we are behind, but we do see this lot of dry docking work coming forward. So, you know, I think onwards and upwards, and you know, is I keep explaining to the guys, busy hands are happy hands when I have them working 7 days a week sometimes, you know. Surely it's better for shareholders to split the business, i.e. sell capital intensive Island McGee to infrastructure investor once approvals are received. Arun, do you want to know?
Hi, Paul. When we started our journey with InfraStrata, we had the gas storage project and nothing else. The whole focus of this board has been to diversify the company's portfolio, have a multi-asset portfolio that will de-risk the balance sheet, that will enhance financeability of the entire company. When we talk about the capital intensity, the capital intensity of Island McGee, it's worth remembering that when we are ready for FID, we shall be selling down our project equity at the project level. So there will be no dilution at the PLC level. The incoming equity investor will be investing at the project level, and we'll be diluting ourselves from the existing 100% to another number. So from that point of view, we don't see the value of spinning off the gas storage business into something else or just selling it off. There is a lot of value from that can be obtained from this project, not only from a nat gas storage perspective, but also from other commodity storage perspectives.
Thanks for that, Arun. Tom, are we seeing the benefits of the Senkos partnership, Arun?
I think Senkos have been wonderful. We have had a lot of in-depth research that has been done by their head of research, and those reports have been available to all the shareholders via their portal. We have had a very cooperative nomad who understands the business, who takes a very practical commercial approach. At the end of the day, Senkos as a nomad and broker also have to adhere to AIM rules and regulations. So I think as a partnership, it has evolved very fruitfully.
Thanks for that. Bruce, very happy with the alliance with Navantia, but when can we start to expect to see some concrete business and resultant cash flow start to materialise? I'm just trying to think what I can say. There's a couple of things, Bruce, that are very close that we're working on. So we expect potentially in the first half of next year that we may start to see some flourishing rewards out of the investment that we've made in that relationship. Arun, do you want to?
Yeah, I think just to add to that response, Bruce, there are a couple of elements within any of these contracts, especially when you start looking at the wind farm business. One is the establishment of the joint venture and the work share, and that's been a matter of discussion between both the counterparties, and we have a fairly robust agreement on that on that matter. The other issue is any of these wind farm projects in particular are also subject to either government funding or CFDs or auction rounds. So in many cases, what you will find is that the delay to fabricate is not because we do not have the capability or we don't have the right bid. It is more the project developers side of the equation that causes the delay. So that's a dynamic within this industry that you must be aware of.
And just another bit to throw into that question is when you look at defence contracting, you have various rounds where the supplier engagement, then you go through pre-qualification before you go into the raw tendering stage. And we've passed through the pre-qualification stage. And that's really where they look at your technical capability, they look at the financial backing in the business, and your ability to deliver the project. So we've ticked those boxes So we're now in the direct tender stage of at least one project. But the beauty of the Navantia relationship is that's not confined to the UK, and there's export opportunities brought in through that. And when you look at some of the large wind projects that's happening throughout Europe, given that Navantia Shard is near enough full on that wind side, there's huge potential for us there. Kevin Gregory, when realistically, as a maintenance specialist, would I be able to invest my talent at Appledore and across a greater group? Well, if you look on the Harland and Wolff portal, Kevin, there's an area for potential subcontractors and suppliers to register their interest. So if you want to register your interest there with the supply chain management, we're always looking out for good suppliers across the business and I think competitive tendering for projects that we are giving out to get best value for money in productivity is something that we look to do going forward. Michael Vidal, at Appledore, are there any tenants who are leases on the site? No, there wasn't any tenants on the site at the time, but we've got various bits and pieces that we're working through with potentially some land that may be excess to requirement that we may look to do bits and pieces with. So we're looking through the art of the possible on that one at the moment, and that would be subject to planning permission and things like that. But there are options to do bits and pieces down there. Tom, what's the combined value for tenders we have bid for? That's something I'm not prepared to go into tonight, Tom. But as you can see from the pipeline, we're bidding substantial chunks of work, and it is in the hundreds of millions of pounds worth of work that we are bidding at the moment. Arun, this one's probably for you. Can you give more on working capital, please? You're obviously bidding on decent-sized commercial military contracts for Harland and Wolff, as well as waiting on the permission for Island McGee. Do have you the necessary working capital if you've got lots of positives on both happening together?
Hi, Jonathan. In terms of the spend on Island McGee, we have a very minimal cash burn at the moment. The next phase would be FID, and at that point, the capex investment will kick in, and that will get funded by the incoming investors who put money into the project to build the project up. In relation to the working capital, yes, you're quite right. We are bidding for fairly large-sized commercial and military contracts. That will get funded through a combination of sources. We have our commercial banking lines. We have cash in the bank as well. We have potential funding opportunities from the vendor in terms of advanced payments. So there are a whole bunch of opportunities and a whole bunch of avenues through which we will be able to generate the required working capital.
Bruce, talking about win ratios, we're quite happy with the win ratios and they are in keeping with our expectations. Michael, I think I've just answered the question around Appledore and around the land that was acquired with the docks in the recent questions. Sorry, I've just gone past that. Shafa, how many other shipyards in the UK can accept the largest cruise ships in their docks? None. You look at the other large dock. When you look at up in Rosyth, you've got the restrictions of the bridge, and then you look at some of the other larger docks, you've got restrictions in the beam. There's no other dock apart from the building dock that has the beam and the length. The only restriction we've got in the building dock is the depth, and we're looking at the moment what options we've got around dealing with the depth restriction that we got. Bruce, what does the board think the next event will be that significantly moves the share price? It's a very interesting question, because I think we're obviously you'd expect me to say this, I think we're substantially undervalued for where we are at the moment, given the balance sheet that we're now starting to put together in the stage that the Island McGee gas storage project is at. I think the market's taken a view around Island McGee that there may be a chance that the project doesn't happen because of this marine licence. That's not something we share. I think you may see a disproportionate rise in the share price on the award of the marine licence. But I think, look, a lot of the hard work's already gone in, going through feed and things like that to get the project advanced. And I would have liked to see more increase in the share price in the short term. But look, when I came into the business, one of the things I made pretty clear from the first investor evening that I had was that we were really looking at the long-term shareholder value, medium to long-term, rather than the short-term share price. So I think, we've not changed our opinion on that. So I think that we just need to keep pushing on, doing what we do. And like, I think it'll probably be some pretty minor announcement or something that comes out that will just push the share price through the next place. I think all we can do as a business is keep doing what we do and deliver and keep growing the business. And I think the share price will look after itself in that medium to long term. There was a question that I missed. I'm just trying to look for it. Worst case scenario, marine licence isn't issued. Are there any alternative solutions which can be implemented, or will the project be scrapped? We've certainly got no intention, Sam, to scrap the project. We've got Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, Plan E, and I think I actually even saw Plan F on a drawing board the other day. There's lots of scenarios. Clearly, there's financial implications of the other scenarios. But look, it is a project that's close to our heart. Arun and I have both spent a lot of blood, sweat and tears on getting that project to the stage it's up to. So we're fully committed to getting that delivered. And I think the other question I was looking for that I think I might have just scrolled through was that, would we consider selling the Island McGee project? And look, you never say never. If the right offer came in that reflected what we think to be the value of that project, then maybe. But look, I think given how close we think we are to the marine licence and the few restrictions that are there to develop the project, we would really be looking for a substantial increase in the value of that project to represent the work and effort that's gone in to get it this far, do you have sufficient financial base to meet MOD procurement? I was trying to think how to spell that, Krista. Look, I think the fact that we've managed to pre-qualify for a defence project shows you the answer is yes. Look, we're not naive enough to think that for some of these bigger projects we don't need to partner, hence our partnership with Navantia for FSS and BMT. So I think, look, for every project, not just in MOD procurement, I think you need to look across all procurement. You need to look at what the right level is. And I think, with some of the government export finance schemes in place for some of the commercial projects, we can assume some fairly stable cash flow and working capital for some of the projects, When are you looking to start recruitment in Appledore? Well, we've already got a team in Appledore looking at the repairs and working on the work that we want to get done by January. And look, as I've told the Prime Minister, the local MP, Geoffrey Cox, is that you can phone me up and ask me when we're employing staff in Appledore as many times as you want. until we get a contract in Appledore that you can assist us with, because you've got numerous government vessels that you could award into Appledore. We won't be ramping up that yard. So I think the ball's clearly in the government's court if they want anything to happen quickly in Appledore. We've also got several projects that we're looking at for Appledore that are fairly well advanced. So we're well down the line with them, but nothing's done as yet. Danny, I'll do this one first quickly, Arun. The marine licence has become a risk to Isle of Magee. You know, I recognise your efforts to engage legal experts and also ministerially to get that moving. Is it time to consider to proactively bring about legal action on the department now? Well, look, I think legal action is the last thing we want to get involved in. It's a drain on time, it's a drain on energy and resources. But I think the fact that we've gone and procured legal opinions, we've provided the department with the legal opinion. Really, we are giving them every possible option to avoid us going down that legal route. But look, you know, we won't shy away from it if that's what it comes to. We're so confident in the position that we're in. If that's what it takes to get over the line, then hey, that's what it takes. But look, that's by no way our preferred option, and we'll try and every diplomatic effort to avoid that, because it's a pointless and wasted exercise. But look, we need to break the deadlock, and break the deadlock we shall, you know. Richard, good to see you, and thanks for dialing in. Boris Johnson has been verbally supportive of Belfast and Appledore. Will his actions live up to his words? Well, I think time will tell, Richard. Look, I think it's not just the Prime Minister's words. I think that the words, and you know, I'm also in a working group. We're also working on the new industries involved in developing the new national shipbuilding framework and things like that. So we believe the fact that, you know, there's a home shipbuilding loan guarantee scheme getting put in place. There's local content getting put in place for renewable projects. I think there's a whole load of things going around, and let's face it, the Prime Minister needs jobs, he needs economic benefit, and what better way to get a large value economic benefit and employment it is in shipyards that employ hundreds and thousands of people. So look, I think we're very encouraged by his commitment he's given us so far, and we've certainly had several letters of support from ministers in relation to securing contracts and securing works. So look, we're really pleased by that support. But look, time will tell, and we just need to keep holding everybody's hands to the fire, really. So look, everybody, I think we've managed to get through as many of the questions as we can. I appreciate there's a few that we've not managed to get through, but given I've run an hour and 10 minutes over, I'm sure you've all got homes to go to. But look, thank you very much for all your support. Thank you very much for the interest that everybody's shown tonight in the questions. And look, we've tried to get through as many of them as we possibly can. We will look, when we do the next one of these events, even if it is, if we're there in person, we will look to see if we can do a live stream for those that can't get there, because I'm absolutely thrilled with the number of people that we've managed to reach out to tonight, and the number of questions we've managed to get through. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And look, we will try and get back to anyone who has additional questions. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.